October 3rd, 2023 City Council meeting of Depoe. Kimberly, would you call the roll, please?
Councilor Beasley?
Here.
Councilor Benningfield?
Here.
Councilor King?
Here.
Councilor Reck?
Here.
Councilor Sullivan?
Here.
Mayor Short?
Here.
And Councilor Watson is excused.
Councilors, are there any changes or additions to the agenda this evening? Okay. We have a proclamation to consider this evening. Kimberly, would you read this into the record for us?
I didn't get that packet printed. Just so we have it printed. Sorry. No, that was okay. Whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's privacy and dignity, security, and humanity due to systemic use of physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, and economic control and abuse. And whereas domestic and sexual violence crosses all social groups, the people who are women, transgender, men, LGBTQIA2S+, poor or working class, native, of color, immigrant, non-English speaking, disabled, young, elderly, or otherwise marginalized, not only shoulder the burdens of oppression, but also experience high rates of domestic violence. And whereas the impact of domestic violence is wide-ranging, directly affecting the health and wellness of individuals and society as a whole, here in this community, throughout the United States and the world, and whereas preventing interpersonal violence is not only possible, but is our collective responsibility, and prevention requires significant changes to our social norms regarding gender roles, strength, sexuality, relationships, and the normalization of violence, and whereas a coalition of organizations has emerged to confront this crisis, including advocates, law enforcement officials, healthcare providers, the clergy, and other concerned individuals who are helping in efforts to end domestic violence. Now, therefore, in recognition of the important work done by My Sister's Place, Silette's Care Program, the Children's Advocacy Center, Lincoln County District Attorney's Office, and the Lincoln County Domestic Violence Council, the members of the Depoe City Council do hereby proclaim the month of October 2023 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Depoe Bay, and we urge all citizens to work with these invaluable community agencies to help alleviate this problem in our community.
Thank you, Kimberly. Councilors, is there a motion to accept the proclamation for domestic violence?
I'll make the motion to accept the proclamation for domestic violence.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept this proclamation in support of Domestic Violence Awareness Month in October. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Mayor, I would like to say something if I may.
Yes.
We all have an interest in this topic. I have a genuine interest in this proclamation and some direct knowledge based on probably 5 decades of covering domestic violence criminal cases that were always tragic, sometimes fatal. But what we have here is a document. I don't know who wrote this, and I'm going to make a suggestion on this. In an attempt to be politically correct, which is a very widespread thing now, this proclamation obscures the true dynamic of domestic violence as an overwhelmingly man-on-woman crime, regardless of gender, race, or economic class. Furthermore, phrases such as burdens of oppression imply a state of slavery with little hope, just the opposite of the message of optimism that this city council should send. This is what people want to hear, is they want to see a little hope. So rather than a broad political statement, what I would suggest we do, and I would like to move to ask for an amendment to this, is to just say on the second paragraph right here, whereas domestic and sexual violence crosses all social groups, and that's it. And then just cut out all of this other wording which obscures and downplays the nature of true domestic violence in order to make some kind of a broad statement. It would simplify this, and it would get rid of that burdens of oppression, kind of an over-the-top phrase. And I hope you will join me in approving an amendment to this proclamation so that I can vote for it with you.
Discussion on this?
Counselor Beasley, did you make an actual motion?
No, he's amending the motion that's in
He's
place.
amending, but he made an actual motion to amend it.
I would like to make a motion that we amend the motion to adopt this proclamation with a change to the second paragraph. Simply short.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion on the motions?
So we vote on the amendment first, and then we
Yes.
vote on
Or
You
vote on
just
the,
vote on the amended.
Hmm?
You vote on the amended. Let me clarify something here. Counselor King, you were the one who made the primary motion. Are you okay with the amendment to the motion?
Yeah.
Okay. And Counselor Rex seconds it, and then, you're okay to vote
with the change.
with the change.
Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Alrighty, the motion carries.
Did you say all in flavor?
I think.
I think we heard
Sorry.
I move to.
It's gonna be a long night.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Alright.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a consent agenda this evening. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda as submitted?
Move to accept the consent agenda.
Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda as submitted. Is there a discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor?
Yeah, on September 5th, agenda, I was not, there, and, there was, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the page here, for a second. So it's on 9 of 56, so I was absent, that is correct. But down when we get to, the public hearing on page 10, it says, in the first sentence on top of page 10, Betty Phil noted she had made a complaint about the fence. Councilor Reck noted she made a complaint that feels as though she doesn't have bias. That should be struck. I wasn't there to make that statement.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Are there any other changes or additions to the minutes? All in favor of accepting the consent agenda as presented, say aye. Any opposed? Alrighty. We have our county administrator, Tim Johnson. You are up this evening, and we've got a packet here in front of you as well to follow along about the homeless advisory. Good morning. Welcome, Tim, and thank you for being here.
Sure, it's a pleasure. You need me to talk to you this.
It would be helpful to catch our following.
Okay. Yeah, you should. Be okay. Council members, Mayor, thank you, Tim Johnson, County Administrator. I'm here tonight, I'll be very judicious with my time, so you can get out and out of here, so I don't have that, I'll elongate this for you. I'm here to say thanks, as well as try to give you a quick overview and update on this effort regarding the 5-year strategy for homelessness in our county. I'm here not to impart any of the facts or findings. That will come here shortly relative to the consultants that have been hired to perform this work. I'm here just to give you an update of how much work has been accomplished so far today, which is significant. So with the first portion, I want to just quickly go through accomplishments. Again, I want to refer to you the fact that we were one of 8 communities, counties in the state selected as a part of the House Bill 4123. As such, we received $1 million to help look at this examination. 400,000 of the million have been spent on, or is currently in the process of being spent. More on that in a moment. Within the context of this, you created formulation of a homeless advisory board, which was really a tremendous undertaking. It incorporated the cities, the counties, the tribe, a community services council. Within the context of this, and I want to bring to your attention, there's a couple handouts in your package. First, you went through, in order to help and initiate this, you have a declaration of cooperation. This is in your packet, I understand.
It wasn't actually, the only thing I got attached to the email was the PowerPoint presentation.
So if you will take this and copies of it, that would be much obliged. And then in the context of that, there was also an IGA that was, you can catch here in a moment. You could provide that to her, I'd be much obliged to as well. Within the context of that, those were significant undertakings. Because as I believe these documents came before you, particularly the IGA, for your review, it was extensive. Let me just share something. When you have 7 cities and a county, and they all have their attorneys looking at something, it doesn't come quick. So it took a while to get through that process, but meanwhile, your leadership was steadfast. Within the context of that, you selected consultants, one on the strategy, and the other one to stand up the Homeless Advisory Board, which is a significant undertaking. And the next page, again, as I said, you stood up an advisory board and you had 4 subcommittees: service provision and policy, community engagement, mental and physical health, finance and economics. The thing I want to bring to your attention and really compliment your leadership on is the fact that everyone has stayed unified throughout this process, which is unheralded, I believe, in this county in a non-emergency situation. Look, I'm retired. I'm seriously, they pulled me out of retirement. I came down here to work on something completely different from what they wanted me to do. I'm engaged on this. This is my 4th homeless strategy. I've done these in Seattle and San Diego and San Francisco and Sacramento. So I didn't expect to do this, and when I got here, I gotta tell you something. You people are so compassionate, if not empathetic, to this issue. It is staggering to me. It is a pleasure to work with all of you. You are just an amazing group of people. Your leadership has been steadfast through this, and I think that's the reason why we're going to have great success moving forward on this. This is really amazing to see. And as a 4th-generation Oregonian, I am really pleased and honored to say that. Thank you very much. You had regular meetings. You hosted meetings here in Depoe Bay on the subject matter since we began a year ago. August, we have over 200 residents participating in this program, which again, I think is a tremendous action on everyone's part. You have formulated a website and you've used social media on this to keep people connected. And there is the website can be found in many locations, but it is just Google up or go to your web, whatever internet access you want to go to, and just look up the Lincoln County Housing Advisory Board, and it'll pop right up. Within the context of that, again, I apologize, I'm not sure why this material didn't get to you, but we did, as identified in our contract, get through a mid-year report or a midterm contract report. We'll make sure that you get that too as well. And one of the humorous things about it, and I'm sure that all of you know this well, is that when you're running an organization, you have a mission and a vision statement. I have to be laughed about something here just for a moment, tongue in cheek. They always say that when you have a mission and vision statement, it should be no longer than an elevator ride. You've heard that term before. So we have a couple elevators in the courthouse, so I decided to challenge this. So I walked in the door with the county council and I said, I'm gonna quote these. And of course, we only have a 3-story elevator, so you have to be quick, and lo and behold, you can do that. And so you can't get this out in, well, maybe we have a slow elevator, you can't get this done. And to that point, I think that it says something dramatic to the fact that you're very concise and forward-thinking. You also hear another phrase, and that is, did you read the fine print in the contract? And that's where the state of Oregon put the goals. Not just only the goals for us here throughout countywide in Lincoln County, but for every one of the 8 that was defined. And so within the context of that, here are your goals that you have. And I think that they provide good direction as it pertains to where we're having to go. Countywide challenges and opportunities. If I ask you,
Excuse me, Greg,
Greg, could you advance the slides, please?
we're under countywide challenges and opportunities. While he's doing that, let me provide an opportunity for you. When you're gonna look at this report and you're going to hear from the consultants, they're gonna tell you that there are nearly 150 organizations engaged in helping the homeless. Let me stop there for a moment. You are now on countywide challenges and opportunities. Can you see that? I want to bring something to your attention within the context of this. That's a little difficult to understand, and even I have a hard time with it. That's a lot of folks and a lot of organizations. But here's how it works out. And I ask that since you are the editors of this report, and basically the publishers, because your names are going to be on this, I ask that you ask the consultants to think about the way that they present this. Because you, as policy leaders of our county, countywide, city, should have having your constituents have a better understanding of what that number truly is. At one point, they said it was over 200. And I question that, but let me just share with you how that might work. If they come to Depoe Bay, there may be several different organizations in which they say are working on homeless. They may say that it's the city mayor and city council. They may say it's county recorder. They may say that the city recorder. They may say it's public works. I know for the county, what I witnessed was I had my sheriff's department, I had my jail, I had community corrections, I have health and human services within health and human services, I have behavioral health, public health, mental health, the list goes on. And I said, well, wait a minute. That's like quadruple county here. I said, that's just one organization. In some ways we work on that. So I would ask you, just to put in your thinking cap, when the consultant comes to town to present the draft report, if you will question that and feel comfortable about how it should actually be presented. Because right now, I don't think it's fair in the way that it's presented. It's not a criticism. I just know that in preliminary discussions with others, they're kind of looking at me cross-eyed and going, that's a whole lot of organizations that I don't think actually exist. And if we had that many organizations, is the reason why we have a homeless issue is because they're tripping over one another. I don't think that that's what's going on here. And so to your point, you are the editors of this report, and I hope that you'll spend the time with the consultant to get that corrected. What we do know, however, is that there is a high preponderance of nonprofits and faith-based organizations working on providing primary service to the homeless in the county. And most of them are located along the county, not back east in the county, where we have some disproportionate issues that we're going to have to address. But I think the key element to this strategy moving forward, from what I'm seeing after almost a year of engagement on this, is that we are all trying to work on supportive housing, homeless services, and economic prosperity. I'm going to give Kim another document to make a copy of. Before I do that, I'm going to reflect upon it. It's a one-page memo that has all of the current projects, housing projects that relate to emergency housing, winter sheltering, all the way through permanent housing for homeless that's being built in this county right now. You will be shocked and surprised when I tell you that there's over a total of $43 million being spent right now on projects that are being completed or under construction right now. That speaks volumes for this, all of the communities here. I can't tip my hat enough to you all. Kim's just walked out the door, but within the context of that, the housing that we have runs from emergency, transitional, supportive, affordable, and market rate. And within the context of that, you have both public, private, and nonprofit partnerships being developed in this county, which again is a testament of the success of the private sector along with the public sector working together to try to help answer this question. So no finger can be pointed at any one particular body right now that they have been the one reason for any kind of success. There is a tremendous amount of folks, thank you, that are engaged in that opportunity. Kim, if you get a chance, could you change that now to presentation of strategy? Thank you. The strategy is broken out in a fairly simple methodology, nothing really too exciting about it. I have preface and overview and executive summary. Corresponding backgrounds and analysis, you'll see a tremendous, when you go to the website, a tremendous amount of research has been done on each one of our jurisdictions and countywide. I think you'll find it very interesting. They'll provide you with the findings and the opportunities and challenges that will be up against in the context of three categories of housing, services, and economic prosperity. There is another item I'd like you to spend considerable time on with the consultant. And again, I'm just a messenger here, so don't confuse where I'm going with this, but I will tell you, as a county administrator, I get worried on specific costs, and one of those is the concept of a navigation center to help the homeless and the corresponding costs associated to do that. They will present a variety of levels of service and corresponding budgets. I'm going to leave that to all of you to decide where you want to go with that. That is your decision. But let me just share this with you. In the context of this, if you go to the next steps, next slide. As the status report comes forward to you, that we've got a couple more cities to make this presentation to. There will be a publication of the draft strategy later this month, and it will come to you either late in October or I would suspect in your first meeting in November. And this is when you get a chance to look at this. It will be your first time chance. You'll have 2 times to look at this and review it, ask questions, spend thoughtful time looking at it again and ask questions, and then get it to the state. Now, recall, and I may have oversighted on this, that this was identified as a pilot project by the state of Oregon. And to that point, they wanted this in by November 15th. And we informed them that this is a pilot project, and as such, each council, mayor and council, need to review this. And you need to spend the time with this document to feel comfortable with it and what you actually want said in this document. So please understand something. We're not going to be pushed by a state agency to get this done on some artificial time. We've been moving this right along. A tremendous amount of work has been achieved. A tremendous amount of more will be achieved. But again, I turn to all of you and say, we need your thoughtful direction on this. So you take the time that you need to spend looking at it. Within the context of that, we would like to see a resolution from each jurisdiction supporting this effort moving forward. And again, that will only be done after your thoughtful review and direction and input. We'll get it hopefully either to the state by the end of the year or shortly thereafter. And we've informed them of that fact. The funny thing about this is a contract I have a lot of problems with, because it really has open-ended issues to it. And the state is tripping over their own contract as it pertains to this activity. And what I mean by that is, the League of Oregon Cities, which has done a very nice job of acting as an intermediary for the 8 organizations that have been selected, now want this delivered to them on October the 15th. And I said, I don't think that that is possible. I said, we can give you a draft, but we're not gonna give you a final, because it is dependent upon the decision of each city council of what you want in that report, and we will not provide a final until each and every city council signs off on this. Now, it's important for you to understand that that is significant to the conclusion of at least this portion. And moving forward, next slide, if you will, Kim, under implementation. From January through June, we want to make sure that you understand the organizational operations that will be had moving forward and what those will entail. We want further thoughtful review on your part. We really think that you should take the first 60 days of 2024 and really peel this back to really feel comfortable with it, and understand that we need to develop a work plan. And that's the next step into this, is to make sure that we do have a work plan. Now, as for the county, we have aligned a lot of dollars behind this program. And some of it is identified in this memorandum, and monies that we have provided for some of these act as gap or bridge funding for some of this housing, mental health, behavioral health, public health programming, along with American Rescue Plan Act dollars that we went in, and general fund dollars that I've identified. Look, I've been doing this a long time, and the thing that bothers me about my home state is that they did not, and they never line item anything in the general fund of the state of Oregon to ensure that this got addressed. It's always been an afterthought. And given the fact that it's an afterthought, let's just all run a bus together and drive the 205 between Clackamas to the I-205 bridge before you get over into Vancouver, and you can understand what I'm talking about. It is a key issue that needs to be addressed, and you have done it elegantly. That's my phrase. You probably wouldn't hear that in a business school, but what I mean by that, it is not only the quantity of the work that you've achieved, which is significant, but it is the quality of which you engaged it and that corresponding style. And that's how I get to that term, and I think you've done it better than anybody I've ever been involved in. Phase 3 would begin in July of 2024 and carries through the end of the pilot program through 2028, which would be the 5-year conclusion. And that is looking at those value proposition efforts, again, on homeless services, economics, transportation, and housing development. Again, I can't thank you enough. Your leadership has been absolutely stellar. And I've never witnessed anything as unified so far today as what you've accomplished here today. So with that, again, thank you very much for your time. I hope I didn't take up more than I'm supposed to. And if I can answer any questions, I can move on.
Opportunity. Any questions for Tim?
Mayor, I just have a comment. Tim, thank you for coming tonight, very interesting. I am for anything that you guys can do to alleviate this problem. But I have to tell you that I don't believe you can do it unless you've got a real strong nexus between law enforcement and drugs, and enforcing the laws that we have, like trespassing, those myriad of misdemeanors that are violated constantly, so that we can put these people into diversionary programs. I mean, they're not gonna walk in for treatment. They have to be,
Yeah.
and so I think there's gotta be that element, or else you know?
So, this is excellent comment, thank you. We've heard a lot of similar comments like that, and so that, to your point, a council member, has to go into that work plan. Absolutely, we have to address that, you're correct.
Yes, Fran.
So, I'm sorry, I'm not on the committee, so this is a little bit, beyond me, but, the contract for the consultant will put together this plan, that's what, do we have a work statement for this
Oh,
contract?
yeah, you did quite some time ago, yes.
We
Yeah.
approved all of that.
We approved it,
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind taking another look at it in this context.
Well, it's all done, I mean, the study's completely done now. We'll have Ernest,
But what we are, the plan will be written out though,
Right.
when you're asked to
approve
approve
it.
it. So, the contractor's done with his work, or he's still working through drafts?
They're in the draft today. You will get an administrative draft for your review,
Okay, so that would go to,
administrative final.
so that would go to our homeless advisory committee to review.
Yes, that starts next week,
Okay,
and then it continues on through all of the cities. No, I'd be more than happy to, you said, I think it's actually on the website, but be more than happy to forward that to you so that you have a copy.
no, I mean, I'm sure there's other eyes looking at it, but,
And there were, yeah, there are quite a few, yeah.
okay. And, so you said, that there was various types of housing being offered, right? And, are we talking about, people who are on the margins and they, have health issues or lose their job and just need rent assistance for a few months so they don't land up on the streets? I mean, it's a whole diversity of programs, right?
Yeah, you have a variety of diversity programs. You have emergency, transitional, supportive, affordable, and market rate, and categories within each one of those to be able to support those needs.
So
And it's happening as we witness this, and I keep looking at the planning, my planning department, that does so much work, some for cities, and of course for us in the unincorporated areas, and watching the new applications come in to address these issues. So we're headed the right way. But I don't think it would have happened without the leadership of all of the cities coming together and making this occur. It sent a signal to the private sector, particularly to the investors, to say, this is what Lincoln County's looking for, and as such, you'll find an amenable environment to be able to build here for those purposes.
I think one of our biggest issues here in Depoe Bay is that we don't really have a homeless situation. I mean, we do know that there are people out there that are homeless, but it's not right downtown.
Right.
So transportation is gonna be our biggest issue here, is transporting and working with different agencies to assist people as they are going through, so lots to work on.
There is a lot to work on, and as it relates to the transit agency, I've been here 16, 17 months. And I've been thrown a lot,
Yes.
and one of those issues was relative to transportation, dial riding specifically, and the services that could be enhanced to support the needs of this. And one of the areas that I'm having to look at is the diversification of the location of facilities and services of the county. This county became very centric in a specific geographical defined area. And as I've expressed to the commissioners, we need to diversify that location. So I've been out doing that, and I think we'll have some changes in the not so near future about where our services are located. And I'm doing that for several different reasons. Not only because of what you suffered through in 2020 with the fire, but also because of just for good, effective, and efficient enhancements of our operation. So again, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim,
And
none
if
of this
there's
would
anything else I
have,
can do, let me know.
it wouldn't have gotten this far without your guidance, and we appreciate that.
I just want to conclude in Councilmember Wright, I came here to kind of set the stage so it didn't hit you cold when in about 30 days from now, you gotta go, what is this? I don't know anything about this. And so at least now you have some idea and can be prepared for that discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
sir.
Alrighty. So we'll move on to our committee reports. Emergency preparedness. We had to cancel yesterday's.
We did the radio training, but we have another meeting scheduled next Monday.
On the 9th.
Yeah.
At 4:30.
And tomorrow is the day I think that everybody should get a ping on their phone twice.
Yes.
Yes.
To remind everybody.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's basically, we will meet on the 9th at 4:30.
Okay.
Mayor, I have a question about for the Emergency Preparedness Committee. I read your minutes of the recent meeting, where you spoke of moving a cache to the North Point location. I believe it's the city wastewater treatment area. And I'm concerned about that, in the sense that this cache should be in a more central location and accessible by citizens. In the event of an emergency, you have a bridge to cross, a stream to cross. We don't even know what kind of damage people will have to encounter to be able to get up there, to walk clear across town and to reach that point. It seems to me that it would be better to have it someplace up here by City Hall or someplace more central. That is kind of a regional location. So I
All
was,
of these sites are just talking points. None of them have been secured. Everything will be coming.
that was my
before this-
question.
Right.
So may I address that? Councilor Beasley, we want to first of all get the cache on the other side of the river, or the other side of the harbor. Because we think that if we have a cache on this side of the harbor and that side of the harbor, that would be ideal. We don't have a lot of city property in which we can put a cache. That's really the only spot that Brady seems to think that would work for us. There's the lack of property that we own. We possibly could rent some property, but we haven't really looked into that. The city engineer, according to Brady, has looked at that property, thought it would be acceptable as long as the property was built up and the pond was drained. So,
What about renting a storage unit?
well,
We haven't gotten that.
we
If
could.
I could address, we are actually working right now on a cache at City Hall. That's the current year project that we're working on. So the other locations are what we're looking at for future years. But right now, we are working on a cache here at City Hall, just right on the side of the bus barn. is that
Yeah,
what
it's
it's
a
called?
farm.
Yeah.
The other one's over on Collins Street, not South Point, it's on Collins Street. By the water treatment plant.
Oh, it's not the sewer treatment plant.
No.
Oh,
It's the water
The
treatment.
fresh
Yeah.
water. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for emergency? Okay. The houseless committee is meeting next Monday also at 2:00, and we're finalizing the last draft of the ordinance. Harper, Liz, do you have a report for us here this evening?
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, I'm fighting a little cold here, so.
Oh, okay, that's not COVID, is it?
Anyway, we had a really good meeting, last Wednesday. Just want to update you on a few things that we're working on. We're, have currently on order new light frames to be posted in at the, harbor with throwback on it, so we can, in case needed, they'll be very, visible for everyone to be used and save someone. We do have an opening on the harbor commission at this time, like next, resign, so just to make sure we get that posted. Just to let you know that, from October through, I believe it's April, we moved our meetings from the 6:30 time to 3:30.
Oh, 3:30,
So we'll be
okay.
meeting at 3:30 in the afternoon, starting in October. And that's all I have for today.
Alrighty. Any questions for Liz?
The docks are looking so much.
They are, thank you, I was gonna mention that, I hope everyone got a chance to look at it.
A huge thing.
Yeah, they
for
look
everybody,
beautiful and,
Yeah.
and,
Well,
I
it's
really
beautiful.
appreciate all the, fellows heating those to get them cleaned up. And, we did have a few things that got hauled off because they weren't cleared off and the people have come down and got them.
So we're working through it.
Yeah, so it's, everyone's in a really good place right now.
There are still some things though,
That's a good,
like carts,
I think he was,
carts.
There was one cart on there the other day, and James was working, he was taking stuff back and forth, that was the only cart that, Jack and I saw. So,
I think
It's still there,
what they did.
so people have to be reminded of them, okay?
but I think that they made really
Yeah,
good.
It's made good progress, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Planning, anyone from planning this evening? Greg, were you here for planning this evening? Greg?
So much, I really miss.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's
I
okay.
am here. It's my understanding that a report has already been forwarded to you.
Yes.
We do.
Yeah. I'd be happy to take any questions that I could answer if you have any.
Any questions for Greg this evening? No? I guess you're off the hook, Greg.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone from parks this evening? See anyone from parks? And salmon enhancement, anyone from salmon?
I do another meeting on the 12th.
Oh, are they, oh, okay,
I don't know
Okay.
what time.
okay. Okay, I'm gonna open up the public comments this evening. Is anyone here for public comments?
Pam, did you want, where is Patty on the schedule?
Oh,
Mind your public
that
comments?
was, we have Patty Thornton, who wanted to address the council regarding the, in memory of Boba Robinson.
Oh,
I asked her to address your public comments so you can get direction when we do the project updates.
Hi, I'm Patty Thornton. My maiden name was Hayes, and I grew up here. And actually went to this two-room schoolhouse. My desk was right there. And I had a lot of trouble. My sister and I, we have been putting on a Depoe Bay school reunion for the last few years over in the community hall, which, you know, because I've worked with you to rent the hall. And it just kind of keeps growing. We're finding more and more students that were here over the years. And anyway, we've all been talking about things and about Depoe Bay. And we wanted to put, I know there's plaques over along the seawall and everything for those passing. My folks have plaques up there for, you know. But Pogo's a little different. Pogo grew up here. This was always his home. No matter when he was in the military, he went to Alaska. None of those places were his home. Depoe Bay was his home, and he sold Depoe Bay probably, he was what a marketer. Plus, when he worked for the city, I know the community hall was his baby, and that's why we wanted to put a plaque there. I know you had discussion and thought the in memory of Pogo Robinson in 1952, 2000, and we have checked into a couple of plaques. We had talked about a brass one, but the people suggested with it being outside, even though it's gonna be undercover somewhat at the entrance, upkeep. And so they suggested a brushed stainless steel, kind of, I think like your, see, I have bad eyes, but
These are 50 years old.
yeah, well, so we've been talking to a couple of places just to kind of get an idea of costs and stuff. And just wanted to make sure that was okay.
So you're in concurrence with the in memoriam?
Yes, we're just happy and then happy that you would accept putting it on that building, because that's, all the local people are gonna see that. That's where Pogo was at, so.
Yeah.
Can I get just one quick little story about?
Sure.
Yeah.
I left here after I graduated from high school and didn't come back for about 50 years, except coming back to visit. And I lived out of the country, and I was on vacation to Machu Picchu in Peru. I'm sitting there admiring this beautiful place I was at, and this couple sitting next to me, we started talking away, and they brought up where we were from. And I said, well, I was living in Panama, but I grew up in a little town in Oregon on the coast in Depoe Bay, and the guy looked at me really, really funny, he said, do you know Pogo Robinson? I about fell off my chair. And I said, well, yes, I've known him for many years. And so that's part of Pogo didn't know a stranger. I mean, as far as telling him about Depoe Bay, he said they'd met him on a bike run. This guy lived in North Carolina. They just met up wherever and started talking, so he was quite a salesman for Depoe Bay.
That's great.
And yes, I babysat that gal back there.
Well, thank you for being here this evening.
And thank you for considering that, and thank you, because, so we can go ahead and start looking, I mean, we're just talking.
That would be great.
Very sorry.
I think we're all in concurs.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, any other public comments? Okay, we're going on to unfinished business, the harbor ordinance amendment. Kimberly, are you able to read that into the record for me this evening? Or how do you want to handle this? Before we move on, let me just make sure, I have some people, I just want to make sure. Because we have public, I just want to make sure there's no public. But before we do we want, I think there's some clarifications that we need to address that Council Rec has. Okay, so we'll open up for, do you want to read by title, motion to read by title only? It's not that long an ordinance, so we can do that. Is there a motion to read ordinance number 342-23, City of Depoe Bay, an ordinance amending chapter 92, the City of Depoe Bay Harbor Ordinance, by title only? I'll make that motion. Is there a second? A second. It's been moved and seconded to read ordinance number 342-23, amending chapter 92, the City of Depoe Bay Harbor Ordinance. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Is this first reading?
Yes. To read by title only.
Yep.
All in favor, say. This is to read by title only, there's no discussion on it?
Oh, okay.
Unless you want to read it into the record. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, now we'll open up for discussion ordinance number 342-23. And
This is the first reading. I
Yes.
just wanted to make sure.
So Mayor, at the last meeting, September 19th, I think it was, you made a motion regarding the old docks, and then I amended that motion, which you accepted, and that specified that the crab pots were allowed on the docks until October 15th, 2024. And so I just would like to make sure that this ordinance reflects the motion that was made.
it does, doesn't it?
It's in number 1, section 1.
Furthermore, the City of Depoe Bay ordains that all crab pots must be removed from the docks effective October 15th, 2024.
But section, yeah, that's there, so that's good, but what I'm concerned about is number 1, section 1. It says storage of crab pots is allowed on docks until October 15th of each year.
Correct.
And it was, I specifically made that motion to terminate that allowance as of October 15th, 2024. And that was passed, so I'd like that to be reflected in that ordinance.
Yes, pardon me, Mayor. I spoke to Councilor Rec about this a little bit, so I have some concerns about putting a date certain in the body of an ordinance, October 15, 2024. Simply because that's just not a normal practice, is to put a solid date in there. So I spoke to our city attorney and I said, well, I gave him the ordinance, and I said, well, this is what happened, this is what I'm trying to do. He believed it was okay, but if we want clarification, which it sounds like we need, we put that date in there, then, I mean, we can do it, but I just don't want to, only because it's not common practice, and we're gonna have to address it probably after that time, somebody will wanna address it. So that's why I put it in the top ordinance, the cover ordinances versus chapter 92.
So, we're gonna need to amend the ordinance anyway, because this related to the old, our motion at the last meeting related to the old docks. And I think we need another session where we deal with the new docks. And be very clear so that the charter boats have time to adapt no matter what our decision is. But I have no trouble, we amend ordinances all the time, but this would imply that the storage of crab pots is allowed on docks until October 15th of each year on an ongoing basis. And it's not my intent, I'm speaking for myself, it's not my intent to allow crab pots to be stored on the new docks. I think there's alternatives. But that being said, we haven't made a motion one way or the other, but we were very clear that the storage of crab pots on the old docks was allowed, but only until next year, October 15th. So we're gonna have to amend this ordinance anyway, but I just wanna be clear, and that was our motion, so this ordinance as it is now doesn't reflect what was our decision at the last meeting.
Yes, Councilor.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Councilor Recht on that. In fact, one of the reasons, aside from all the engineering things that were brought up, is the fact that we had a couple of proposals here. One of them I thought was very exciting, was Councilor Sovereign's idea about developing the north end of the harbor. And what makes that so intriguing is that has been a goal of city councilors over the decades to fix that north end. And this would give us an opportunity to do that. So that's one of the reasons that I'm behind what Councilor Recht we all agreed to.
I would like to clarify that there really isn't the option to do the north adding docks there because that would violate our permit for our new docks. We can't add any additional over water space. We have to stay
Unless
over
you
water
remove
space. Unless we remove some. So that's the
Well,
things to kind of.
There was also the floating dock idea. So we're
That
having
would
a
be-
floating boat,
The barge.
the barge, yeah.
So if I might, here's the exact motion that our Mayor Short made. Motion to continue the crab pot storage on the old current docks. I put current in there just to clarify. Until October, or with the stipulation that every effort is made to find storage for the crab pots for when we have new docks. That was her motion. And then there was discussion, and you wanted to put September 30th and then change it to October 15th. So when Mayor Short amended it, she added the date, but I think what we should have probably done was get further clarification and maybe wordsmith it to say something about the future docks, because I think her intent was different than your intent. So we need to find the meaning of the minds here with what the actual intent and decision is.
I'm fine with amending it to the 24th, or 24.
Period, but just you wanna put October 15th, 2024 in the body of the ordinance. Yes. Okay?
Is that amenable to everyone? Yeah. Are we okay?
Great, thank you.
All right. With that change, is there a motion to accept ordinance number 342-23?
I move to adopt ordinance number 342-23.
Excuse me,
Yes.
it also would have to be changed in the body on page 30 and 56.
Oh, okay.
Pardon me, Counselor, that's what I meant. Adding it to the actual chapter 92 and in the ordinance, both places. Well, it's already in the ordinance, but in chapter 92.
I move to adopt ordinance number 342-23 with the changes that were noted by the city recorder.
I'm a little bit confused, it's gonna be in both places, it's gonna be in, okay, thank you.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
It's been moved to second to adopt ordinance 342-23, an ordinance amending chapter 92 of the City of Depoe Bay Harbor Ordinance. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Alrighty, and this is an emergency, so it will be in effect tomorrow. Okay, new business, application for the planning commission stand is not here this evening. Did Stan say he was gonna be here?
I know that it was sent to him.
Okay. So we'll pass on that.
Is there another meeting of the planning commission before our next meeting?
I believe there is.
The third Wednesday, so right after, 17th, 18th, right?
Yeah.
So right after.
Right after our meeting.
Okay, so we have,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll try and get him in. Okay, moving on, we've got a resolution 547-23. Has everyone had a chance to read this resolution?
This is, which resolution is this, Mayor?
It's the local government grant authorization.
The only question I had on that, Mayor, was, are there financial reporting conditions on this that would
No.
preclude us?
Not at this time. Find it.
On page 47.
47, thank you, dear. All right, here we go. So is there any questions on this resolution? Is there a motion to accept a
I move
resolution?
to adopt resolution number 547-23.
Okay, a resolution authorizing the city of Depot Bay to apply for a local government grant from the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department for the acquisition of the limestone quarry and delegating authority to the mayor to sign the grant application. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept this resolution as submitted. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yes. So there's two different grants that will likely be applying for. The first one is the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which is the subject of this resolution. But then when we go down to the sample motion, I move to approve authorizing staff to local government grant. That's the second one. That's not the same grant. That one, well, we should definitely apply for as well, just in case we don't get this the local government grant, which also goes through Oregon Parks and Recreation Department, but one's a federal grant, one's a state grant. So as long as the motion is fine and it says Land and Water Conservation Fund, we're fine for now, and then we can do a similar motion when we're ready to submit another grant
Perfect.
application.
Sounds good.
I will make that change right now.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Sorry. I apologize. But in the resolution itself, that needs to be changed. too.
I'm agreeing right now,
She's gonna fix that.
Okay, in
everywhere.
everywhere. Thank you so much, sir.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Alrighty, thank you. We have a resolution number 548-23. Has everyone had a chance to review this? Okay, it's resolution 548-23, a resolution amending resolution 540-23 to increase the non-motorized vehicle launch fee. Is
Your
there,
Honor, I would like to make a motion to adopt resolution 548-23 and then resolution 5423 to increase non-motorized vessel launch fee.
is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution 548-23. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Alrighty. Mortgage fees, let's see. What is this? Karen?
Page 51.
51.
And so the reason I wanted to bring this up is because when we increased the rates, one of the things that we had was had a communication from ODF and W as their vote down there, and that propelled their rates from 168 to 1,325, which is quite significant increase, and then they have a concern about that. So what we were discussing, meaning me and the port clerk, Carla, is we have other government agencies, including the Coast Guard, should they ever want to use one of our berths, which our slips, which they're kind of doing that now, which we need to address. But if we have, who is the other? There's another agency that uses our harbor,
State Marine Corps?
maybe that's who it is. So the question is, does the council want to, do something that says with if it's a government agency, we give a discount, we reduce their mortgage by half, maybe we just do as a, I've been struggling with the term, maybe, Mr. Johnson will remember, where it's like, you have not shared services, but you help each other out, you know?
ODFW.
IGA.
I think it was ODFW.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, but it's just trying to get from the council what direction you wanna go. Do you want to, charge other agencies the full rate that we increased? Do we wanna do a 50% reduction? Do we wanna just say you get one spot for free? What do we wanna do?
Could I ask this question? What does the Harbor Commission think about that? Do you guys want?
We haven't addressed them,
We haven't
Kim,
talked
because
about it.
rates
I'd
are,
like to.
And you'd like to weigh in on that?
Yeah.
Do we wanna can we get a recommendation?
if you wanna send this back to the Harbor Commission for doing that, but it's, if you're not interested in doing it, it seems like it might be more of a, if you're like, oh, we don't wanna do this at all.
I mean, I would prefer to just give that to them as a reciprocal. I'm delighted to have them
Thank you, that's the
here.
word,
Yeah,
reciprocal.
reciprocal.
Oh, I hate when I can't. say
Anyway,
that word.
but I also respect the
Okay.
Harbor Commission.
And I think it'd be nice to have an update from Roy, just exactly how many slips we're talking about. I believe it's just one or two, and I don't think that they use it too much of the time. So I think that kind of plays into really what kind of usage are we looking at? It's very minimal.
Mostly their boards are stores are like ODF and W, their stays there. So, okay,
Well, we'll revamp that back.
so there's at least interest in having this explored to look at some kind of a arrangement.
Reciprocal.
Thank you.
We'll bring that back up again. We need to set a date for the land conservation. Do you wanna enlighten us on that, Fran?
So, at a prior meeting, we talked about the interest in acquiring the North Depot Bay Creek watershed. I had mentioned that the South Depot Bay Creek watershed was for sale, but that wasn't really our main interest. And after all the clear cutting you've seen, and we had pictures from Beanie with the drone. And DEQ, a few of us sat down on a Zoom call, Brady, Kim and myself, to talk to DEQ. They have grant writers that would be willing to work with the city, and they're working with other cities to allow cities to apply for grant funds that DEQ has to help acquire their drinking water watersheds. So at the time, people were interested in having a workshop set up, like and their suggestion was it came an hour, I think it was an hour, to go over their program and what to expect and timelines and things like that. So I think they suggest, or we suggested to them in November, is that?
November 7th was the date they wanted. The question is whether you want it as part of the November agenda, or do you want it as a separate work session?
Well, for an hour, I think we'd have to do a work session, don't you? I think we,
And whether if people have the wherewithal to do that before the meeting,
start at 5.
is that okay?
Sure. That's okay. So Kim, we'll get that arranged then. And then a work session in October?
Well, we didn't, there was some confusion with some dates that were written down and who was what with the public hearings. So a couple things, we need to still do the work session on the salary and survey results. I met with Public Works, and part of this discussion is we need to really update some of these job descriptions because they're not reflective of what Depoe Bay actually needs. So we had a great discussion today, but it's all this stuff I wanna finish putting together and present to you for council review and approval of all of this stuff. It's gonna take me some time, so I'm really looking more toward the end of October now versus sooner rather than later. There's also some other items. Councilor Sovereign has expressed some things. I wanna bring the docs leases to you. at that time. There was another one, something you mentioned, Councilor Sullivan.
The food and beverage tax?
Yes, so there's a couple of things, it might mean a fairly significant meeting, at least for a couple hours, I mean, I know depending on what we go, I know the salary survey and the classification and reviewing that's gonna take some time. So.
Do you have a date in mind that you'll have?
I don't, just when is the last week of the month? Anytime the last week of the,
That's Halloween.
I was gonna say wrong month, I'm looking at the wrong month. Yeah, the second to the last week, anywhere in there.
The 24th?
24th. Okay.
We have time to put things together?
Yes, I'm working on it, and after the meeting today, it was a really good meeting, so we have a path forward. Apparently, several years ago, there were some updated drafts of these documents that were done between staff, but they never, with the changeover in city quarters, they never went through the process. So it might be a pretty simple, easy. Some of it might be switching to look at where our certifications and career paths and looking at ways for the guys to advance and what that looks like for the city. So some of it would deal with the fact if we end up being a level 3 plant and what we need for that. So wastewater, right? The level 3 wastewater.
So is everyone available on Tuesday, the October 24th?
Just for that one item, and we'll have
A
another.
few items. It would be
All
the
those
doc
three items?
leases, the salary, and then if you want to start preliminary discussions on a food and beverage tax.
Five.
5 o'clock?
Kim, could you give those to me again, salary, what's the other?
The dock leases and the.
Thank you, dock leases, the food and beverage tax, or if we're talking about dock leases, we can talk about the rest of it, which would be the charter business license and charter that. We really do need to get on businesses, so that might be, maybe we could do the food and beverage tax later and do the business license.
Could you include that in your project list? Is that something that should be there? I'd like to get a feel for all the things that are happening.
Oh, I do have a list that I've been working on to provide to the council of active things going on in the city right now. Things I'm working on.
So,
I'm gonna provide that to you during the October 24th work session. 24th, right?
I mean, the 17th.
17th is a regular.
17th is a regular meeting. Okay. So the 24th would be the following Tuesday at 5 p.m., correct?
Yes.
Can you order pizza in?
I will feed you.
Excuse me, Mayor. Because it has come up and I wanted to respond to this. Somebody had mentioned the food and beverage tax. And I just want to point out that this is going to be a huge and controversial measure. It's going to be a gigantic fight. And I before we go down that road, I hope people really think about that.
It's a discussion right now. There's a lot of.
Well, I haven't heard it on a discussion agenda item.
It's just an idea at this time. It's not an agenda item.
I think there's, larger issues about revenue generation and, food and beverage, harbor use tax, various ways of increasing revenue into the city. So we could start, discussing pros and cons of each one as we go.
I think we've heard concern about putting all of the expenses and the increases of costs to run the city on the shoulders of the harbor a lot, by raising the mortgage rates and doing a lot of things. And I've heard people really want to spread the wealth, spread the opportunity to contribute toward the financing of, am I doing good? Okay, I'm done now.
Opportunity.
You like that?
Everyone needs opportunity.
Well, maybe we should make that as a separate item,
Definitely.
not part of that.
Revenue, maybe.
Revenue generating.
Right. I
I definitely have done some research on other ideas in cities, that cities are doing that we put together in the council, please consider that at some time.
That'd be great.
That'd be awesome.
Okay.
So we'll
Do
meet
we
on
have a work session before the 17th meeting, or
No,
that meeting
no.
just starts at 6? Okay.
Okay, shall we move on to Tourism Promotions Committee? Kim, do you wanna bring us up to date on what you've been working there?
Yes, so I sent you an updated, staff report, which I'm sure you probably haven't had time to digest, but one of the things is that, and that shouldn't say just Tourism Promotions Committee, say Tourism Promotions and Events Planning Committee. So, a lot of people have had some concerns, as you know, about the salmon bake and the fate of salmon bake. And I talked to the chamber and they're still willing to have the city do the salmon bake because they're still concerned about their ability to get the volunteers they need. I don't wanna go down the path of this discussion of what is going on with the chamber or what, the negative aspects. I really am trying to turn with a bunch of people, and Loretta Miles is here, who can speak to it as well, and Councilor Sovereign, to try to turn this around to something that we can do to satisfy the tourism requirements of our transient review tax, transient room tax, which, as I added up in here, is that I was looking at the numbers, and I can provide something next time, because I just went through it quickly, is we're not focusing the funds that we should be focusing on tourism. We're not putting the money back into tourism promotions, we're not putting it back into tourism related facilities. I added on here that at one point back in 2021, the city did give the Chamber of Commerce up to $5,000 to satisfy part of that, but that wasn't even enough at the time. They told me the reason they did it was to avoid having to do procurement because it was under 5,000, but that's a very different animal, so we would have handled. So the idea is the salmon bake has proven really to be very important to the city, and I'm hoping it's very important to the council to keep it going. The other idea is there's other events that we can consider. The first thing we would do is, the committee would do, we already have approximately 10 people who are willing to actually be on the events planning committee and head pieces. I don't know how many of you have seen the posting on Facebook, maybe you have, but there's 9 heads, if you will, that would run various elements of the salmon bake to begin started. They're going to do the work. Yes, the city will be helpful. We'll help them with the budget. We'll control the money, if you will, but they'll be doing it. We have one guy who's sourced salmon before. He's willing to get on board with it again. We have a couple of people who have been long associated with the salmon bake, willing to jump in and get going because they don't want to see it go away. Now, a lot of the people out here, they want to change the focus a little bit. They want to consider the tourism aspect of it because they realize it's important, but they don't want to try to go to the buses and get busloads of people. They want to focus on the tourism, getting the word out about the event, getting people to stay here and it to become an event. Because while it's nice to have the buses come here and hang out for the day, what we really need is them to say, this is a huge event, I want to start taking time to get here early. So, but that's just one of them. There's other ideas. People have tossed around, I didn't know this, but apparently Depoe Bay has a pirate history, which has been really fascinating to me to learn where that came from. But there's a need for the city to have some kind of events. The chamber has, they do a lot of the business focus. They would be involved from the standpoint of helping us market because the chamber has some of the reach we may not originally have. Although we do have somebody who has experience in promotions and marketing and is on board with handling that part of the salmon bake. So the initial focus of the events planning committee, tourism promotions, would be the salmon bake and getting that up and running. And then other ideas, we thought about maybe helping with Christmas, the holiday celebrations, putting together what that looks like and that sort of thing. So more of an events focus. So that's where we're coming from. That would you like to address that a bit, because she's kind of been spearheading the effort as far as talking to folks and getting feedback. This is Loretta Miles. I don't know who she is.
I'm kind of blindly spearheading this. I moved back to Depoe Bay thinking my life was going to become much calmer, and lately it hasn't been. So I've been around Lincoln County. I grew up in the D-Lake district of Lincoln City. So I've been around here since we moved here in 1958. to me, the two most defining events in Depoe Bay, the two things that we, as far as events go, have that I don't know of anybody else who has, is we have a traditional salmon bake and we have food flowers. Those are our biggies. And I also don't want to get into all the controversy about the chamber and negativity and who said this and who did that. That's not my focus at all. My focus is this town and the spirit of this community and seeing these truly defining events like the Salmon Bake continue and have a sustainable future. And I think right now, the most logical direction forward is for us to form this committee, as Kim has outlined, and with the basically oversight of the city. We plan to do all the work. We've already got people who have career backgrounds in fundraising and getting sponsorships. We've got a couple of people who have signed on for that. The salmon sourcing is huge. And as Kim has said, that I see this also as a way to, there has been all this negativity. Let's refocus on something really, really positive and ways to bring the community back together, to the community that so many of the people who live here now have no idea what this town used to be like. And those of us who've been around for a while, and I can't say I've been here the whole time, I've had my foot in Depoe Bay all my life, basically, but I moved back to Depoe Bay 8 years ago. But we're once this tight-knit little community, and we want that again. And when I talked to the spaghetti feed for Maui was a huge turning point in my head, to see all these people down there working happily side by side, all for one goal, and feeling so proud of what was accomplished that day. And there needs to be a lot more of that in this town. And I see this tourism and promotion and events committee as being the real stepping stone to branch out on all of that. Again, I also agree with the busing of people in from the assisted living centers and whatnot like that. That's all great, but we all know they get off the bus, they eat their salmon, they get on the bus and they leave. They don't spend nights here, they don't go out to restaurants, they don't go whale watching, they don't do any of those things. And so by kind of flipping the focus a little bit, and going back to how the Salmon Bake used to be, when it was this community event where we got together to celebrate our survival through another season, and the bounty that was offered by the sea, and also the bounty that comes to this town by the tourists coming in. That's, I think, a really key piece here. If we can get those people to come in, they show up on Friday night, they drive over after work, they spend Friday night, Saturday night here, they have the salmon bake, they do all the other Depoe Bay things. They walk away with their t-shirt and their saltwater taffy, and a wonderful memory that then they put back on the calendar for the next year. And I really think that with the city's support, we can do all of that and more.
And one of the volunteers who wants to be, is associated with the Wind Law, so many of you know who that family is. And his connections made people very excited about having tribal involvement, bringing that back, the cultural aspect. In fact, that is one of the committees for the center, is to look at bringing back the cultural aspect of it. So.
And there is also someone who, we're choosing not to name names at this point, but there's someone who is very prominent around here who is a direct descendant of Chief Charlie Depoe, who has assured me that she is 100% on board with getting involved with culture, history, and bringing the tribal aspect back as well. And that would also probably bleed over to the entertainment aspect as well. So it could be a really exciting thing, and it could be a real turning point for the salmon bake and a definite boon to the city's overall tourism, so.
I like it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
So,
I'll open this up for discussion then, Counselor.
I had a thought, actually, Councilor Beasley brought it up a few meetings ago, and that was, the tourism dollars that we are supposed to be spending, that I'm not sure if that's been done, it hasn't been done.
No,
as we said.
right, not to the level that we're supposed to.
That we're supposed to, so thank you for getting us back in sync with what we should be doing, because, and then we would provide oversight now on how that's spent.
I personally really think this is a wonderful idea, and I appreciate your working on this, Loretta, and Ken putting it all together. And I know Valerie had a few comments on it as well, so I think it's a wonderful idea, and I would like to see the council go forward with this. So we would put it on the agenda for next meeting to,
If the council concurs with moving forward, otherwise you wouldn't really want anybody spinning any more wheels. if council moves
So do
forward.
we need a motion to accept?
You can have council concurrence at this point, but I think Council Rec wants to.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, Counselor.
So I have very mixed feelings about this. The city is so busy, and every time there's an event, city staff has been hugely involved. And our facilities have been involved, our staff have been involved, the amount of head time and physical time, and it is not our focus. And I'm not, I looked at this memo briefly, I don't see that our contributions to streets and sheriff and water is not part of that tourism, it's all dependent on it. So I think we need a much more accurate accounting of where our tourism dollars get spent, but that's a different issue, about how much we should spend or not. We had a presentation a few times ago by a person that was friends of Depoe or something, willing to take on the salmon bake, not this year, but in the future, so I don't know anything about, that's already an established nonprofit. The Fleet of Flowers is its own group already. You know, Ms. Miles mentioned the salmon bake and Fleet of Flowers as the two events, you know, and I wouldn't want it to be open-ended if we did this at all, but this is, it really gives me the shivers. This is not what I think the city should do. I don't think we even should have a committee to do this. I think this is the role of nonprofit groups like the Fleet of Flowers or the Friends of whatever that is. And if the city is gonna take this on as a committee, I just see this as a slippery slope, got more money, more effort, more time, and more involvement. You know, we said that Nights Out was not gonna be a city event, but then it took all huge amounts of staff time, even though it wasn't, you know, officially staff time. So, I just want to express that I really need to think about this more. I really don't see this as something I want the city to get into.
I'm sorry, I totally disagree. I think our city, from our Lahaina night, came together and that was a joyous evening, and that's what our city is about, bringing us together. And I think an events committee would eliminate staff time. We had no staff involvement in our fundraiser 2 weeks ago.
That wasn't a city event. It was you
You
guys
brought us
taking
all
on.
together and it was a city event, I'm sorry, but people came in and they had a wonderful time. And that's what I am looking forward to.
They did, but it wasn't an official city event. You and a whole bunch of volunteers got together and put it together.
And that's what but we want it to be through the city because we are promoting our city.
And as far as the tourism dollars are concerned, city services is a facet of tourism dollars, but it's a small facet. The biggest facet, and I put that in there, is the 70%, which is related to tourism-related facilities and that sort of things, visitor centers, convention centers, and then the tourism, part of it, promotions, which is the marketing, advertising, all that stuff, which the chamber primarily does, but we don't even get the chamber any money. So we're not using our tourism dollars the way we're supposed to for the department. And this way, with all these people we have that would do this, yes, the city will have to be the ones that handle the money. When it comes time to move stuff around, our staff will need to do that. But that's the extent,
Pre-planned.
because they're going to do it all.
Yes, Councilor Beasley.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, I agree with you, Kim, on some of the things you've said there. But I don't know that forming a committee and organizing the salmon bake is going to solve any of those problems. And I'll just say a few things. I agree with, as Councilor Rex said it very well, but I just have to weigh in on a couple of things. These other cities that have similar committees, these are tourism development committees. They don't run events. These are survey-driven marketing organizations. One of the things that concerns me is that I see people that are passionate about this. You know, I've listened to people, I've read the social media posts, and there are people that are passionate about it, but I don't think that represents an overwhelming support one way or the other among the citizens of this town. There's just not enough evidence for the city to risk its resources and its personnel in order to put on shows that should be run by an all-volunteer group or not run at all. And I agree with Fran, we have a score or more of expensive and complex projects already underway or being proposed, including land acquisitions, new docks, a new accounting system, harbor leases, and much more. We just learned tonight of you know, and we see it all around us, new development. We're gonna have to deal with these problems that are gonna be coming up. And we need to focus on our existing commissions, such as parks and planning and harbor and emergency preparedness. They need our oversight and our guidance, and we need to do a better job with those groups right now. One of the things that really bothers me about this, Mayor, is that this is coming down the pike so fast. Already we have $1,000 worth of city staff time right here. We've got a resolution that's written. Our city recorder, unbeknownst to me, I certainly didn't direct her to do this,
I did that on my private time.
has gone through and done some research on this stuff. I read to find out what's going on here, why, you know, how this has come about. I have to go on a website, on a social media post to find out that valuable and highly encouraging conversations with some of our city leaders have been occurring. And that the city of Depoe Bay is receptive to the idea of taking the salmon bake on as an annual city project, quote unquote. You know, this is, first of all, that's inappropriate. Nobody should be meeting with anybody and representing themselves as being, that the city council is conducive to this stuff. If that's prohibited in our rules. You don't represent the city when you don't have the council's approval. And so there's a lot of stuff that's going on here. I think we need to arrest this thing, maybe talk about it. And I'm not against the salmon bake. I mean, there are plenty of people that it sounds like that can put this thing together, and we have offered our community hall for these good people to get together and figure out a way to do this. But we have so much on our plate, and it would be totally wrong for us to, in my opinion, to get involved any further in these events. But other than supporting them, we are obligated to do that. And we will do so financially, I hope. Thank you.
For council.
Do you want to move forward with this council or?
I'm not for that. Thank you.
What's that?
I want to move forward with it because it's changed a lot since we first talked about it, when I completely didn't agree with it. But I think this aspect of the city and the money needs oversight of council. And I think it opens up by establishing an organized effort for the thing. It's gonna open up more opportunities for revenue, I hope. And I'm just tired of the infighting that's going on, and this puts an end to it.
Well, we're gonna get sucked into that infighting. Is what's
No,
gonna
we're not.
happen.
Okay,
I agree with Valerie in the fact that you can't put a cost on goodwill.
Right.
You know, and I think that that's what we're lacking, or have been lacking for many years. And I think that we should continue these types of projects because everybody appreciates it and does bring money into our community. But I agree there is city oversight, but I don't see how we can not have that. We have to have that.
What about the other existing nonprofits, such as for the Fleet of Flowers or the Friends of? The Fleet of Flowers already is run by a nonprofit. And the Friends of group came in front of us and said we'd be willing to organize it.
Friends of Depoe Bay is no longer willing to organize it. They're a committee, 501(c) and made of 2 people. I found this out recently. I thought they were a group of several people, I thought, but they're not. So, and I was told, maybe somebody can help confirm this, that you would be a part of it, but didn't want to run it.
They're actually watching.
Oh,
I don't know.
Who's that?
Want to speak to it, Barbara?
oh, there she is, okay.
They do not want to run the Saturday. And the Fleet of Flowers, absolutely. I mean, we would simply support it like we normally do. No desire. I mean, they're doing a
But Gloria
wonderful
said
job.
Fleet of Flowers.
But I've been raising, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna interrupt. I've been raising my hand because I wanted to clarify, I only brought up the Fleet of Flowers as one of the defining events of,
Right.
I have no intention of taking or encouraging anyone to take the Fleet of Flowers away from the 501(c)(3) that operate, they're doing a wonderful job. I only brought that up as the 2 things that when people on the other side of Oregon think, Depoe Bay, what are their big events? Those are our 2 big events. So I am really only I'm not focusing on Fleet of Flowers at all. I love volunteering for Fleet of Flowers, but I don't have any intention of including that in this commission unless the time comes that they decide to dissolve, and then it would be an easy way for us to incorporate that in. But that's not my intention at all. The other thing that I did briefly want to clarify is I see the volunteer team that would eventually be created to run this commission with the oversight of the city. I see that as being something that would just build and build and build as people want to get more and more involved. So then we do have a much stronger volunteer base for any other events that we're having trouble getting people to work at. So I don't see those as an either or thing. I see it as a very inclusive thing.
Mayor, before we get involved, can we get, I see that Ms. Miles, you are doing a nice job of getting lots of attention on this. You've asked for volunteers. Why don't you get a list of volunteers together, people who will head committees and demonstrate that you
I've
can
been
actually
doing that
put
for
this
2
together.
weeks.
Very good.
I have a spreadsheet.
And then, you know, bring it to us at our next council meeting so we can look at it.
okay. Would you be happy to do that?
Sure, we can do that.
Pardon me, Mayor, we have somebody online who would like to speak.
Okay,
Shule?
yes.
Oh, hi. Thank you for letting me speak. I too have a list of volunteers, which I stopped adding to because I was told that the chamber would continue running the salmon bake. On my list are a lot of the people that would like to start a new organization. And I do believe, given the time frame that we have, there is enough time to build this new organization that does want to run events, that is commerce based for our community, because we as a community should be commerce based because of the things we fund, like our police presence and other things. Anyway, I just know that we need a little bit more time. And in some ways, I do think Loretta and I are working towards a same goal. If we could just all choose to meet at the community center and build something that focuses on the community and doesn't put more burden on our city. So I'm just really hoping for that. I wish we could set a date for that and move forward with these traditions that help bring people to our community and help bring our community together. Thank you.
So, are these groups willing to work together to make this happen? Loretta?
My goal is the community spirit, and the salmon bake.
And you'll work
Yes.
with Sule on that?
She knows that. We've had these
Okay.
conversations.
Excellent. Well, that sounds like the genesis of a group right there. to
Big
make this
group,
happen.
yeah. Everything all comes together.
So you just shot it down.
What's that?
You basically just shot it all down, Rick, and now
I
you're
did,
coming,
I
and
didn't
you're
mean to
coming
do that.
around full circle, so I don't really understand really what you're saying.
Well, I'm saying that it should be, the salmon bake should be the effort of an all-volunteer group. It used to be done by the
Yes, that's
Chamber of
been-
Commerce, it could be done by the Chamber of Commerce or the Friends of Depoe Bay or whatever the group is that,
The
Is
committee that
Miles
we're
House?
proposing is also an all-volunteer group.
well, the problem with that is that once you involve the city on this, that's another committee for this city council to do oversight on. We've already spent, as I pointed out, lots of money on this effort already by just involving the professional staff on it. And you're kind of sucked, and I feel like this is a scene from the Godfather movie, where we thought we were out of that, and now we're getting, as a city, sucked back in, and
Alrighty, we're gonna remand it until next meeting.
thank you.
What would the council like me to provide for the next meeting? Anything from the group?
If the groups are willing to meet together, is that correct?
I am willing to meet.
Okay,
I've suggested that to Shuley,
so
and
could you meet before our next meeting and
who is
possibly
gonna
come
call
back?
who's gonna call that meeting together?
Yeah.
That seems to be the stumbling block.
Oh, well, I'm willing to meet whenever.
Okay, Shuley will set up the meeting.
So the question I have is, I don't understand these relationships. I also don't understand why there's a deliberate effort to keep, like, the chamber off this group, or business people off the group. I just don't understand, the whole structure of this, and what the idea is. I mean, it just doesn't, the whole framework of this is, if it's a city committee, you know, and I just don't understand how it's being set up and why this would lead to success if the animosity that has been perpetrated by some of the same people in this room continues. I don't know how we are gonna be able to bring the city together, and it's,
One step at a time, Fran. We've gotta build relationships, and I think they're willing to do it, so why can't we give them the opportunity?
yeah, I'm willing to hear more, but Kim asked for direction. I wanna know more about how the structure is gonna meet its goals. And it sounds like one is a volunteer committee under the city, and the other idea is a separate group of volunteers. I don't know how those two things merge, and maybe after your meeting you could define it. But to me, this is, I don't know, I just see us being sucked down this awful,
I disagree.
awful.
All right, okay, we're gonna move on. We've got city staff reports, project updates. Has everyone had a chance to review all of the updates going on around town? We are busy. When are we gonna get rid of Spectrum?
Well,
I'm tired of
it's
that.
inclement weather now, so they're doing a lot of line pulling from the last meeting I had with them. They still have all this winter to do, the rest of, so they said they'll start in Little Well Cove probably after, holiday.
And what is happening with the repair of the streets and the sidewalks?
Oh, the restoration work will be done when they get done with certain neighborhoods. So they've done the restoration like downtown and on the city streets,
Okay.
but down at, where, on
Well,
Main
as I
Street?
walk along the streets, the sidewalks are all still all.
Yeah,
wet.
the concrete, I did discuss the concrete work, but that is a scheduled, different restoration guy. It was ODOT's, and one of the sidewalk is the city, and the other one is the ODOT.
So we still
But as
have-
far as the blacktop on Main Street in Williams, they've completed that. And then, they're gonna start restoration after the work is done in the, Stone Bridge. Yeah. But they're gonna be working on it all through the winter, and then after a while, it's just gonna be cold mix because they're not making hot mix, so they waited way too long to try to get the, agreements with the HOAs. So now we're into inclement weather, so they don't make asphalt. So it's gonna be cold mix until maybe spring in some of the areas, like you would pay Little Rock.
And they'll come
So yeah,
back.
we're still, yeah, we'll come back and do the restoration, so they say. I mean, I just try to do as much input and have them fix what they tore up, which they've done on Williams and Wayne, but at this point, it's just waiting for them to do the work, and then, yeah, then they'll correct, so.
Any questions
It's
for?
unfortunate, but yeah, it's just.
It is.
Pardon me, Mayor, I have a few updates.
Oh, yes, please.
Because things are constantly changing.
Yes.
So first of all, remember the issue with the sign and the right of way that you cited a couple of weeks ago?
Our truck.
Bartron, thank you. There has been an appeal filed on that to LUBA. So, we're waiting, our attorney hasn't received it yet, but we expect that he will get that tomorrow. So there's been a, issue on that. The confidential information that I provided you is, coming up. We don't know what's going to happen with that yet. It's based out of that one particular case that you also heard. So whether they actually go further on that, we don't know yet. I had put in here about the public records request, that's gone away now, because if they do proceed with doing what they are talking about doing, we're gonna have to provide everything they asked for anyway, so the district attorney decided not to rule on that. We've got a couple of, our plan is submitted for that grant, and then we already met with the Yellow Book appraiser. I think I got that, let's see, make sure that I have everything else on here. Today was the end of the protest period for the harbor restoration, we got a protest.
I thought it was yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday, we got a protest last night, yes, we got a protest,
By 5 p.m.?
oh yes, by 2:34 or something, I was yeah. We got a protest, so, I've been talking to PND, our city engineers, and our city attorney about the next step for that. Looks like I left something empty on the seawall movement project, that's simply because I think I was expecting to have something from the Army Corps of Engineer who've been to the harbor, but we didn't get an update on that. You haven't gotten anything from, okay.
No.
We're gonna reach out to the Army Corps of Engineers guy to find out what they're planning on doing. And I think that was it. No, just make sure I didn't miss anything. That was it. That was the big stuff that had happened since I provided the report.
Any questions on the updates?
Well, it looked like the auditors came, but then we're kind of, again, at like a
No,
standing.
they didn't come.
They did not come. Oh, okay, I misread
Mayor
that.
Short had spoken to the primary auditor he said he would be finished by the end of September. So we put him on the agenda, or the idea was to put him on the agenda. However, he notified us at the last week that he was not done, that he was still waiting on information from somebody else, and that we don't really know what's going on.
So, I'm sorry, what is the timeframe?
We don't have a new timeframe.
But it was supposed to be the end of September, and then it was moved, is that what you're saying?
So, given the fact that that we've had such a hard time communicating with this auditor, should we, hopefully he's gonna bring this to a conclusion. Should we be looking for another auditor right now?
We've got our RFPs in place to send out as soon as we.
We're ready, but we cannot move forward until we have the 1920 done. And
Until
our
the-
county administrator would be able to verify that if you have any questions about that.
if
Oh,
you want
that-
me to.
We would,
I would love to hear that.
yeah. Similar experience.
Again, for the record, Tim Johnson, County Administrator. I can provide some pretty interesting insight on the subject matter because we have the same auditor. We're not behind as far as unfortunately you are, but I can speak to this. 2 weeks ago, Monday, I actually drove to their offices in Eugene and sat there until I got an answer. And I will tell you, I did not get one.
Yeah.
They, and we have already started, we completed our RFP, we had firms that we went to, as Kimberly I've been working with, as well as other representatives from the city in the county. We went to the Local Government Finance Officers National Convention in Portland, where I had hired the previous president of that organization, Mr. Ade Arawula, who I worked with in Seattle for nearly a decade, and asked him to help try to find firms that would come to Lincoln County and work with us. We found a plethora of companies that would do that. I have been in touch with the Secretary of State's office, particularly Amy John, who's the division chief for auditing for the Secretary of State, and informed her of this unfortunate set of circumstances where we're not getting straight answers. Oregon does this different than California and Washington. Those states have it where the state actually comes out and does the audits. And so on an annual basis that if you're ill-prepared, it is on you. They will get it done, but you need to be understood that your finance director or budget officer is responsible for delivering that. If not, you're looking for a new one. That is unfortunately not the case here, where you're left to your own devices to ensure the fact that the individual or company that you hired to perform your audit gets it done in a timely manner. I can't tell you what has transpired here. I've never witnessed or seen anything like this in my entire life. Let me just share this with you. This will scare you. If you try to go out and get an investment on Wall Street, the problem that you'll have, and that's what I'm trying to do right now as it relates to the fairgrounds, is you can't go because you don't have a current audit. Without that current audit, the investor will not make an investment. So when you're confronted with tax increment urban renewal and you're trying to look for investors for a bond, you're gonna run up right up against it. This is where I think the state of Oregon has failed our jurisdictions, because that prevents us from carrying out the business of the people. And that is wrong. So here we all sit. I can tell you a couple things. We do know that Walport, which has the same firm, just got theirs completed. I'm understanding that However, that there's many of us who still do not have this done. Now, having said that, I'm to the point where if they get the comprehensive accounting finance document, CAFRA as it's called, completed, even if it's not in a bound form, if you just have it done digitally, you should be working on your RFP to be able to identify the firm that you would like to hire and have them begin that process. Because as long as you got your CAFRA, then you can be able to start that process. You can bind whatever you've gotten later on, as you all know. But that's kind of what I've had my conversation with the commissioners this week and informed them on a weekly basis what's going on. They understand the sense of my frustration. I understand your frustration. So my recommendation is we're ready to pick somebody because we've gone through that and had a very laid out process. And in order to stay on time through the end of this calendar year, I've suggested and will continue to that we just embark on hiring somebody and prep this going forward. I feel very sorry for you. If there's anything that I can do for you as county administrator and give your city recorder any information who the firms are who are interested, I'd be more than honored to do so.
Do you have an MBA in accounting?
No, I do not.
So you can't do one of these for us?
I wish I could.
I have a list of 20 names here from the Oregon Board of Accountancy. Have we tried that list?
I haven't been forward because we haven't had the direction on doing that. That was one of the things we talked about, whether or not we need to do it. But our feet are to the fire to the standpoint of meeting our old one before we move forward on the new one.
Well, he just said that if we could get that digitally.
We can get the process going, right?
If you get your CAFRA and they have let's say they have the numbers reconciled. They don't have a published document. All you need is the numbers reconciled, and then you can start the process.
They
A
don't
new
have-
firm
they
can
don't
do
have-
that.
They don't have the numbers reconciled.
And our whole point was we spent this much money and it's like, they keep on telling us it's close, so we really need that to be delivered before we get rid of them.
Okay, how's our relationship with these people? Are you talking to them?
When he retires,
Okay,
and the mayor has had conversations with him.
well, what are you finding out? Are they amenable to getting this done? They're just behind or what?
He told her he would be finished by September 30th.
Right.
He called back before September 30th and said he had to wait on some information from our previous CPA, which I thought he already had, and that he would get back. He was traveling this week and he would get back to us.
Let me share something with you on this point. There's a couple changes that have occurred in audits, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with those that occurred. The government accounting standards practices have added several different new elements. Let me put this in perspective. This was interesting. If someday you would like to talk to Mr. Arowula, who was the president of the National Association, he will tell you this. He's one of the most honorable men I've worked with. He told the commissioners this in a public testimony. He said, there have been more changes in government accounting standard practices from 2020 since this program was started post-World War II to 2020. There have been more changes made in less than 3 to 4 years in government accounting. To that point, let me share a couple with you. The first one is what's called the Government Accounting Standard Board Practice 87, which means that you have to show all of your leases. All of the information has to be public and it has to be reconciled as well as, are you making money on these leases? Are you paying somebody on these leases? That has to be reconciled. The second thing that has to occur is every computer license you have has to be documented. Now, I don't know, I got a big organization and we've been working on this. To Kim's point, and council member, to your point, sir. I was informed a year ago, September, when I talked to this firm, that their practice was unacceptable. That I expected that they would deliver this on a timely manner. I was informed with a meeting with county council and former county council with the firm's principal that we would have our audit completed in January of this year. 9 months later, I'm still waiting for it. and have been not given any information except for sidestepping for the last 9 months of when this will be done. And again, as I said, sir, that included sitting in their office waiting to get an answer,
That you did not get.
which I did not get.
So in our new contracts, we have to write in some penalty clauses.
Well, we do have penalty clauses. The problem that you have is you go to court, what are you gonna get? So you're gonna get a judgment, but to what point is the court going to give you any relief? You still are without your numbers.
No, but in a new contract, we pay a certain amount up front, and not until it's delivered. I mean, there's gotta be some way to compel.
I'd like to think that. I'd like to think that, but I think unfortunately, the way the state of Oregon runs this for local governments is an abomination. I'm ready to, upon my completion of my tenure here, that is what I'm going to work on in terms of state legislation. I'm gonna fight for the cities and counties of this state on this. This needs to be changed. This is horribly unfortunate. But we're all in the same boat, so I can tell you one thing, if anything you care for, I mean, you have my full and undivided attention on the subject matter.
Well, can this be done, does this have to be done by somebody, by a municipal auditor, somebody licensed?
It does, they do have to be certified, and that has, one of the problems has occurred, is that Oregon had a plethora of firms that did this work. Strangely enough, nobody that retired out sold their company or get their company sold and consolidated. So we had multiple firms close in Oregon. So now you have fewer firms doing more work, and it's constituted some problems. One of the things that you need to recognize about the difference between private sector auditing and public sector auditing is that the public sector auditors spend 6 months out of the year going to school. So one of the firms that was engaged in our RFP that interviewed for it informed me 2 weeks after the interview, they just said, "We saw your auditing firm in Chicago." I said, "Excuse me?" And he said, "Oh yeah, I mean, we sent 1/10 of our auditing department to this training to get, as required by law, to continue doing public sector auditing. We saw your firm all there." And here's the dilemma. The problem with it is that these boutique firms grew, but they don't have enough time to perform the work. If they've been overbooked in billing, they don't have the personnel to do it. So then you're left having to make sure that you orchestrate your future contract with a firm that has a large enough staff that can compensate for not only your work, but others that they're performing.
Well, these are just CPAs, right? Essentially, they're CPAs.
That's a basis, that is only a basis. Then you have to get trained and constantly be trained on all of the changes that are occurring with government accounting standard board practice.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out a way to move forward.
Yeah.
I see where we're at now, I got it, that are our financials ready to go for the next round of audits? Everything there.
We've been working on it, we still have some final stuff to do on it, but yeah, they've been preparing for that. They started working on 2021, thank you, 2021, yes. When we thought we were close the last time, a few months ago, when we were told we were gonna have an audit, the team was working on the 2021s. And, you know,
To go as soon as we get the numbers and to get our new computer software or accounting software as well.
that is not even the holdup, it's
I know,
just,
I know, but
we
it's all.
provide the numbers, we got the numbers.
Thank you for it.
I would suggest, and I've had this done, but I don't know if it's done anything. I would suggest that each one of you contact the firm and tell them who you are, and each one of you over the next week, sign yourself a date and call. and starts being very forceful with them and saying, I don't know who is representing you as a subordinate from the principal.
Nobody.
So you need to identify who has been the project manager on your audit and force them to talk to you.
You know, that's a great idea, Tim, except that what I'm worried about is offending somebody and sending them off the deep
Well,
end.
look where you're at now.
Well, I know,
But we have some.
I don't mean to be, I wasn't trying to be flippant.
Yeah,
I mean, I've thought this through like nobody's business. In my 40 years of public sector service, I've never witnessed anything like this. And I went out on, as you know, on the plank by actually driving over there and planting myself in their office, which by the way is a very nice office. And I'm starting to think to myself, where is everybody?
I can't believe that you wouldn't be given access to your account.
Oh, I think you got access, right? You just didn't get it.
I never got an answer.
Yeah, he got access, you just didn't get an answer.
I met with my project manager. Didn't go anywhere. And then I got an email from the principal.
Do they
Still not
explain
getting-
why they're not making progress?
No, I think my personal impression is, I think they overbooked work. I think they overbooked and underpriced. And what I think has come back to us is they're unable to deliver because for whatever reason, the firm doesn't have enough personnel to manage all of what they booked. That's what I think has happened.
That's what Paul has told us.
He did?
Yeah.
Well, that's more honorable than what he's given us at the county.
We had him in that back office there where could have just walked that.
Should have.
It is unfortunate, but there's many of us here in Lincoln County that have this firm and we're all in the same scenario.
Well, I'm willing to take a shot at it. I mean, I've talked to plenty of people that are behind on stuff and I don't worry about myself. I don't think I'll offend anybody. I'd take a shot at it, but only if the mayor and the city recorder and the council agree that's a tack we should use. I don't know that would work, but this is just, this is almost beyond comprehension. But anyway, I'm gonna pass this on down to the recorder. These are a list of 20.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate the update.
Thank you,
Tim.
Thank you.
I'd say I feel so much better now, but I really don't.
Yeah, or beyond the first pass.
His name makes you feel good.
Let's move on with our agenda. Are there any closing public comments this evening?
I would like to make.
Come on.
I'm gonna do this as a citizen. Tim Johnson, 8866 Avalon, Southwest South Beach. I'm worried about something that would impact every citizen and particular resident of Depoe Bay, and that is the pending merger between Kroger and Albertsons and Safeway. That would take out potentially 2 grocery stores that provide a diversity and specific purchasing for our population. And I've gone through this before where the Fair Trade Commission did this with Albertsons when they merged with Safeway. In the Fair Trade Commission, the Federal Trade Commission gave the contract to a company called Hagen's, which is a small 12-unit grocery store chain located in Bellingham, Washington. They had to expand to 126 stores from 12, along with 14 different distribution centers. Within 2 years, they were bankrupt, leaving cities across the West with empty grocery stores and creating blight and impacting our elderly population and also helping create food deserts. I'd like to ask, as a resident of this county, that we take a close look at how we can avoid something similar from happening like that occurred about 8 years ago with the merger between Albertsons and Safeway. If there's any indication, Congress has not learned, nor has the Federal Trade Commission, about how to address these issues of these mergers that go on. And I think, unfortunately, it scares me. It really scares me as an individual because think about what you'll have left with. And I think about the people in Yachats and Wallport that, and even here, you're left with a small, very small, off-price grocery store, very high price. And so how does then that impact, plus inflation, how does that impact your residents, your constituents, your family and friends? And this scares me big time. And I would hope that, you know, again, as a resident, I've written to our congressional representative hoping that she will take action on this, but of course, who am I, right? I'm just a resident of Lincoln County, but I think it's something that I hope you would take into consideration.
All right, thank you.
Hello, I'm Miss Sears, a person that lives here in Depoe Bay. And I'm just listening to this conversation tonight, and I would urge you, I think many people here on this council, but others need to really think about how you make things happen instead of why they can't happen. And now you mentioned opportunities. We've got a lot of good opportunities, a lot of good energy. I just like to see us kind of take that mindset of how to make things happen instead of all the reasons why it can't. And our docks were just like one of those things. Somebody said, well, we only build one dock because we don't have enough money for two. We found the money for two. We made things happen. We look for things. And I think just that feeling and that thought pattern would really help the council at this time.
Thank you, Liz. Any other public comments this evening? Anybody online? No. Okay, I'll open up for council comments. Do you want to start, Lindsay?
I don't have anything.
Nothing tonight? Okay, great.
I just want to circle back, and maybe this is a future work session, but there are some projects that sort of got dropped that I'd like to revive again. One of them built being the fence that's on public oceanfront property, Ellingson's, is that what it is? Ellingson and Winchell path. So, yeah, just trying to revive projects that's been mentioned, put on a list, and then nothing's happened. And now that we have our city engineer, things can happen again.
Okay.
I can update you on the next question. I can do that.
Can I have a suggestion? I know how everybody's busy and we have so many meetings and the meetings get canceled. And you do a really good job of letting us know that. Is there any way that we could have like an ongoing calendar of meetings? Because I'm afraid sometimes I'm going to forget one. I forgot one time. I'm not talking necessarily about a calendar format, just a daily schedule of meetings because they change. And I'm just.
They're on the website.
Well, I know, but I'm just, if we had like one place where they were listed, like on the city website.
It's there.
They are all there on a calendar there.
Yeah.
But sometimes meetings get canceled and that's not changed.
Oh, really?
Did you, okay, we can make sure that, I can make sure that those are updated regularly to be, but it's possible one or two, certainly was missed depending on when it was canceled and who was the staff, but we can make sure of that. The other thing I can do is I can always send you like, Outlook meeting invites, and just put you on the schedule for that. And I started doing that, and if the council would like to do that, we can do that, and then you get, but I don't know how many people live on Outlook and would you see those in time, sort of thing, so I'd be worried about that.
I look
But
at,
I'm up to doing whatever council wishes.
I look at the calendar almost every day to make sure I haven't forgotten something.
Okay.
And maybe just first thing, maybe somebody's assigned the task of the first thing you do in the morning is you look at the calendar and make sure it's all
I do
up to
have
date.
people that do that, yeah.
Awesome, and that the audio recordings are, caught up as, recordings for the meetings are caught up as quickly.
Those have actually been posted within the
They've
next
been-
day for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I've noticed that. So,
But I appreciate everything you do. I just want to make sure that I'm aware of everything that I need to be aware of and not forget anything.
So my cause tonight is to remind everybody that it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, also in addition to the other one. I'm a 2-time breast cancer survivor, that's the long shirt tonight. Surgeries and, radiation and chemotherapy, years of it. But it was early detection, which is why I'm here tonight. Some people may be glad about that, others maybe not so much. But it's hideous, and if we can find a cure for COVID in 5 weeks or whatever it was, we really need to find a cure for cancer. So that's my speech.
Thank you. Councilor Beasley?
Well, Councilor Sullivan, I've known you for over 40 years, and I'm so glad you're still alive. Thank you, Mayor. Good.
Okay, and thank you all for coming this evening. I guess I'll do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good idea.